With social media at this point, you can say anything about anybody, and there's no accountability at all. When Bongani said that I introduced him to drugs, I mean, actually, I heard about it, I dismissed it. But my kids got really pissed off. I didn't do anything for a long time from TS Records, from Mzege Zege. DJ Sabu was a DJ on YFM. So there were constant sound bites just hammering me, right? I was pissed off then.
Nkululeko on Cultr.
Yeah, I think your industry, curiously, your industry is under pressure in terms of record labels versus musicians. And the most recent case study, of course, was with Makadzi and some minor artists as well versus open mic. For me, what I was curious about was how, I understand I come from football and I've interviewed hundreds of footballers, and I understand that in their contracts, there's something called option to renew, which means that the club has an option to say, we are extending your contract beyond the 3 years that we've signed for. It's in that contract and players sign for it. The club can say, you didn't perform well in this 3 years that you were with us, therefore we're not extending it by a year or two, but you know that there's an option for them. When they extend it, it's as if you've relinquished your right to say yes or no. It's an option that they've inserted there. If you sign for it, it's on them whether or not at 3 years or 4 years they can renew. What does auto renewal mean in the record label industry?
I think there's a lot of okay. I don't even think that even in contracts that we deal with, okay, you cannot have a relationship with an artist or with anybody when you are renegotiating a contract or even talking about a contract where all of a sudden it comes up and it's like auto renewal. That is sounds like an insurance policy, that you're paying and, oh, now it's just, no, I think that what has happened in this particular case, I think that, and yes, there will always be a battle between the artists and the labels, and this has happened from the Beatles times.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think that is going to sort of disappear. But I think what needs to happen in the industry is there needs to be a body, right, that basically regulates these contracts. Okay, and this body needs to be set up by the Department of Arts and Culture, right? And there needs to be independent lawyers where musicians can actually go to and they can seek advice, because 99.9% of musicians do not have the money to actually get legal aid or get any advice from a lawyer. So they're just going to sign whatever's put in front of them. And if the record company is dubious, they're just going to just let them sign. Yeah, sign it. Don't worry. It's just fine. Everything's okay. You don't need to, you trust us. But in the end, these relationships fall apart. Yes, we've also had problems in the past. I mean, Get A Rough has only been around for 35 years. And we've had our share of ego problems, contract problems, what else? Defamation problems, all of these things. But there's never been, I'm very happy to say that we still stand in, and 80% of the artists that I've worked with, I still have a relationship with them. And it's interesting that the ones that in the media we don't have a relationship, they call behind the scenes. So there's a lot of cleaning up to do, and there's a new minister involved. So let's see how much shine he'd like to get.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've heard, I think it was Master P talking about that they tried to have a formation,
Yes.
a union, Master P, Suge Knight, There must have been Dame Dash in the picture as well, that they wanted to form a union. But I think it was, for them, it was a play. It was a power play. They wanted to shake up the record labels and scare them to say that we are representing artists and we in the form of a union. It never really went anywhere.
That's not going to work. That's not going to. The ideal situation would be there's a body, there's 3 lawyers that are on a body that are being financed independently, and they're being financed by the Ministry of Arts and Culture, and because they can also look at what is real and what is bullshit. Because obviously there's always going to be these gripes. There's going to be artists making claims that are not justified at all. Okay, so I can see through bullshit very quickly.
Yeah, so the auto renewal thing you're calling bullshit immediately.
Like, come on, like that is just number one, a power play, and also the way I heard it, and I stand to be corrected. They've got a management contract. So you've got a management contract. You don't have a recording contract. You don't have a publishing contract. No, I think there's going to be a time when there's going to be a lot of questions, okay, that need to be answered, and people are just living the high life, the high life. And don't forget that there's other things happening in the background. There's the Jerusalem case coming up, okay, where there's claims by another producer that he actually did Jerusalem. There's a sample in Jerusalem that is there 114 times. So, yeah, there's a lot of questions to be asked, and it's going to definitely shake the industry up.
Yeah, it's curious because your industry has a lot of human beings in it. The artists, people in the background. I don't know whether or not South Africa would have the capacity. Maybe the willpower. Of course, we'll question whether or not the Ministry of Department of Sports and Arts and Culture, do they have the willpower, like the willingness to be able to deal with that? And also, how many artists are there with claims that there's sufficient manpower to deal with it? Will say that I was shortchanged in this contract, and how speedily will those claims be resolved?
I think what needs to happen, I think you cannot be going back 10, 15, 20 years. Okay, what needs to happen? Advice needs to be given to artists that are signing contracts. If you understand what I'm saying, It's like it's now. Okay, you set up a body, and you can't go back, right? You've actually got to deal with artists that are signing contracts now. And maybe what can happen is there's a template that's actually set up, where these are the standard clauses in a contract. At the moment, you find out that there are contracts where the record company, certain record companies, and it's definitely not the majors, okay, because the majors are regulated globally. So there's certain things that the majors can't get away with, but an independent record company can get away with. Okay, we're going to take 50% of your live earnings. Okay, so every gig you get, and that's bullshit. There's no ways you can get away with taking 50% of an artist's earnings live. You can't.
Yeah, I'm interested to understand perhaps what a 360 is.
Oh, 360.
A 360 deal, because you mentioned the live element of an artist's earnings, and I think 360 has been demonized by a lot of artists, that you should never allow a record label to earn from everything about you, whether it's your merchandising, your album sales or streams, and your live as well. For a record label, what is it? What are they taking from an artist, or what are they sharing with the artist when they have a 360 deal? Because I could never get myself to understand why, if I'm performing for a 50K gig, for example, that I have to share that with people other than the performers, that are my dancers, my backing vocalists, or my DJ.
Okay, I think that there's pros to a 360 and there's cons to a 360. Certain companies, massive companies, global companies, Live Nation, etc., there are benefits to having a 360-degree deal where they could be giving you a massive advance, right? They could be making sure that there's marketing budget, that there's a push happening on your record, and then that there's a huge investment into the product. So the downside of a 360, excuse me, if you're an independent artist and you like to operate independently and you're a hustler, okay, and you can hustle your gig and you can hustle your sync deals and you can hustle your merchandising, etc., then obviously that isn't the route to go for you. But if you want to get into the big global level, right, there are a lot of artists that are actually going in that direction because they just need that might, and they want certain things to happen quicker. Doesn't mean that it does happen quicker, because in this music industry as well, there's a huge thing that happens that comes to play, and that's luck. You need a lot of luck, and you need a massive song. And once you get that massive song, okay, that is when everything else needs to actually fall in place at that particular time, so that you can capitalize on all those different income streams. And if you've got a big enough team yourself, all right, then you don't need that 360.
It's interesting though. Like I'm still I'm listening and trying to hear from your side as a record label. What do you share with the artists though?
What do we share?
So we've listened to enough artists, whether it's Prince or local artists, talking about what they lose as a result of signing for a major. I get the benefits because, of course, they are plugged into radio, plugged in on TV. You don't have to do it yourself as an artist. It's a machine that works on your behalf to proliferate your art so that you can become a megastar. You can see it from that they get that help. But I'm trying to understand it from a record label perspective, that what is it that the artist is making? For example, 50 Cent has broken down. It's been 20 years since his breakthrough album, Get Rich or Die Trying. And he broke down what percentage he had. I think they sold either 13 million albums, which was the equivalent of 130 million US dollars if you're selling it for $10. Sure. And he says that he had like 20 percentage points. For example, I may be misremembering it, but he had something somewhere along those lines. So that then when they make that money, 130, maybe he makes 30 million. Maybe he makes slightly more or slightly less. So I see it from that side that he accepted that he's not going to have 100% ownership of it. So the record label makes the rest of the money, and then they have to pay who they have to pay with their partners in distribution, radio, TV. So when you have a relationship with the artist and you sign them, and it's a 360 deal, what do you take from the artist? What do you expect from them? At a split of album sales, when we were living under albums, for example, what would you be saying to him? You taking 90% from the album? If you have merchandise written, Ishmael or Zola 7, what are you taking from that? And then on the live element of it, what are you taking as well? And other streams of income?
On the live element, we do a 20% deal. Okay. On digital, it's 50-50. Okay. And also, it also depends on how much money's been put into the album. Merchandising, we haven't been fortunate enough we leave merchandising. I mean, if the artist wants to do merchandising, they do merchandising. So we don't have a template that actually just covers everything. I can't see the risks at the moment in terms of recording an album. Let me just give you an example, a rough example. On a live album, your recording costs, in terms of the way we produce an album, like whether it be Vusi or Ntando or even 047, the minimum you're looking at is around half a bar. Okay.
$500,000.
Yes. Okay. You're looking at musicians.
So you automatically know that as a label you have to carry that cost.
Yes. You're carrying that cost. And in actual fact, that album might not sell. There are albums that we've done that do not sell. Right? There are advanced accounts over there that we have that we've never recouped, right? And we in it. I'm in it personally because I enjoy music. Okay? And if we get lucky with certain things, which we have been, we've been very lucky over the last 35 years that we've managed to actually come up with hits.
Yeah.
But what you will find is that as the record label, you'll maybe have 1 out of 15. Okay. And so when I say 1 out, you'll have 15 releases, you might have 1 hit. Okay. It might be 2-3 years you go without that. And then that money which you are making, you're obviously putting it back in. Or you're buying a Maserati or a mansion.
Yeah.
Or you live in large. Okay.
So with a lot of artists, musicians can be complex too because they don't tell you everything you need to know about.
Well, human beings are complex.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, they're very complicated. Because in my head, I've always thought that if you have a Prince or if you have a Zola, like a mega star, like an unmistakable mega star, is there no room for you to go back to the table and sit down with them, even if you don't change the actual terms on the contract, but promise him a little bit more so that you can make money together?
Of course.
Yeah.
I can't see why people can't do that. Do you know? For example, there's another record label that starts with an A. Okay.
That's all I need to know.
It's Amo Records. Okay.
Oh. Okay.
I was really shocked when one of the artists actually showed me their contract, and I'm thinking like, but why can't this guy just, go in? He's on a 50-50 deal. He's owning all their publishing. He's taking all their rights. His name is on all the spreadsheets, all the
split sheet.
Yes, all the split sheets. Okay, and I'm thinking like, surely you'd want as a record label to go to the artist. Okay, listen, you've now made me a ton of money. Let's just relax this contract a bit.
Yeah.
But no, it's ego, and it's also at the time it's probably how much money that person has. So if that person's got a lot of money, and it's also about the fabric of that person in particular. Okay, so if you're a person that is really stubborn and you are like, no, fuck this shit. Okay, I am and I made you, even though they didn't make him, he wasn't in the room at the time, right? But there's certain people that believe that they make artists. And no, I think there's a journey that artists go on. And as a record label or a manager or a confidant or anything, you are on that journey for a certain period of time. Some relationships last 35 years. Okay, I mean, I've got relationships that have lasted, that still are together after 35 years. And then there are relationships that have happened for 2 years. And then, that's like marriage.
Yeah.
And then you got the kids, which are the songs.
Kids are a huge responsibility. And they're like a contract for 20 years. If they can take care of themselves after 20 years, it's like, okay, cool. You're relieved of that contract. There's something I want to ask you that's top of mind now. So usually when the record label explains itself in documentaries, in media in general, you get the sense that whatever star is rising, which is your privilege as a record label, if you as you spoke about luck, if you can really have a mega star, someone that people resonate with, it appears as though the game is that whatever money you're making from them is used to carry the rest of the artists that you're trying to build up as well. Did you find that was like a similar mathematics in that if you...
Basically what you can do, you're making a pot of money, right? Like I've said, you can either go and spend it and buy Maseratis or hot women or pop champagnes or go on holidays around the world, or you can take that money and you can put it into more music. Okay, that is it. Okay, I mean, you work on a 9-to-5 job. Okay, your bond costs X amount, etc., and you take a bit of that money and you maybe put it into a spaza shop on the side. Okay, But what I'm saying, the principle is, it's not that, oh, I'm taking this money that I'm making from you and now I'm making, do you know what I'm saying? No, I don't think that is the formula at all. You are making money, which is due to the record company, and the record company chooses to spend it how they want to spend it.
Did you ever feel like there's any musician that you think you shortchanging? Like you immediately need to relook at their contract as they rise, because I
have looked in the mirror often, and that person was in the mirror that I shortchanged. What? You can say something.
No, I'm waiting for you to explain. I get what you're saying, but
there's nobody.
There's not a single.
There is not a
that
single person that I've shortchanged, and if that person thinks that I've shortchanged them or believes that, that's their perception in terms of that they've short, and they've got to come up with a logical explanation, right? Not just something because somebody spoke into their ear and said, I think you're worth like 100 million rand. No. And obviously the public is always going to be on the side of the musician. Because the public don't care which label they're at. Ultimately, they can be with Sony, with EMI, with Gallo, whatever.
In many instances, we don't even know who they're under.
Yeah. That's why we never put our logo on a music video. You'll see people like pushing the label. No, you're pushing the artist. That is actually what you're there to do.
Yeah. What style of management or leadership did you want to embody when you got into this? Because one of Suge Knight's
Suge Knight. Come on.
No, I'm not,
but you can't be saying
I'm making
what, okay.
So
one of
what Suge said about P. Diddy at the Source Awards.
I haven't watched anything about Suge Knight.
The audience will know the reference.
Wait. So my reference is not what other people are doing. Okay. So I don't do stats on what is happening. Oh, what did Suge Knight say? What did this person say? No, I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with. And in the same way, it's music. Okay. I'm not listening to other people's music. We creating our own music. People come to me and say, have you heard the latest song of this?
Though. That's quite curious that you say that. I think that's fascinating. That even the way that you model your leadership style was, because specifically some people will say, I want to be in the music videos because I've seen someone else do it and become a star. And someone else will say, I don't want to do that because I've seen P. Diddy do it. And it never really worked out because it's as if he's trying to take the star away from their musician. And the same with listening to other people's music. Like, so you specifically told yourself that you're going to focus on you. You're not going to listen to anything else.
Not focus on me. Right.
The organization, of course.
Yeah, no, I'm going to focus. If, for example, I like what a certain artist is doing, right, that is what I'm focused on, right? I'm not listening to radio in terms of, okay, what are other people doing? What is the other label doing? What is this artist? No. Yes, obviously the radio is playing and you'll listen to certain acts and you'll get like, wow, that is really amazing. But the influence happens for me is around the different individuals that I work with in terms of producers. So we work with about 6 different producers. Okay? And I'll always find out later on that the artists actually have got a very clear sort of journey and vision in line with in terms of what they want to do. And sometimes I change that vision in terms of, no, I don't think this will work. I think maybe that will work.
Yeah.
But in general, we're not listening to other stuff or listening to what Suge Knight said.
Yeah.
Because
observing what other people are doing as it relates to being an executive.
I don't even think I'm an executive, really. I'm just a person that enjoys music. And, this notion of being an executive, right? I can introduce you to people who I think are executives, okay? You will not find them in the studio at 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning or doing the shit that I do. And nobody really knows what I do. But, my lifestyle isn't like that, and I'm very content and very happy in terms of what I'm doing. I worked with Polygram when Polygram were happening for about a year, and it was very interesting. And then they fired me. That was fine. Okay, but obviously I was still running Ghetto Rough at the time. But so I've seen what the corporate life is about.
Yeah.
It could be more cushy. And it probably is. Because there's more money there.
Just consistent to what you've just said now, Ishmael was here and he confirmed as I was probing him, because one of my favorite albums is Motherland Crunk.
Josie.
Yeah, I think that the sound on that was amazing. It changed. The only other album that tried to shift the sound in hip hop at the time in 2006, 7, and 8 and 9 was Masihambisane by Zulu Boy. As in, like, it was a departure from what was normal in hip hop at the time. I'm a kid from hip hop. I learned most things from hip hop. That's why I make reference about hip hop.
Sure.
What was normal at the time was that the producer would take a sample, they will take their favorite parts in a sample, try to make it soulful, and then they will have a break beat, and then they would loop it over and over again, and that would be the basic structure of a song.
Right.
But with Motherland, it was completely different. It was beautiful, and in fact, like I showed him this Vusiklimba's album, because of course on What's With the Attitude, you sample Vusiklimba, and there's a lot of Maskandi elements to it. As well. I thought that was very fascinating as a 17-year-old kid in 2007. I was like, I've never heard this before. And Ish confirmed that you nudged them towards that direction. Whatever they thought they were, you were like, yo, you could be this. It could be you, Crazy Lou, and this and that one, and you could do something like this.
But that journey for me started in 1988, okay, when Props the City.
Yeah.
Right, when I put Props the City together, right, and we had, for me it was very important to use South African sounds in terms of getting them to have their own sound and craft their own sound. So Josie was an extension of what we tried to do, well, not tried, what we did in 1988, but was more commercial, right? So, because Jozi had
PLC had a protest element, like a reflection of what South Africa was at the time.
Yes, and also between Ishmael and Bonks and Deleuze and obviously Crazy Lou, rest in peace. Yeah. Okay, they were more commercial. Right, and also Bonks wasn't into the sound at all. I mean, he was pushed into that sound.
Yeah. So was he like extremely again? Like, I'm not gonna do Maskandi elements of hip hop. He didn't see the vision.
He was doing Shamani ECT, right? And Shamani ECT was sort of American hip hop, crunk. He was down that road. Les was even against it. Right, it was, and then eventually, Bongani I went to Reliable Music at the time, to the warehouse, and I grabbed a ton of CDs there, and just picked CDs, just like, okay, and said sample, let's like get the sound, and strange enough, we went on, because I thought what we could do is take the sound. Okay, to really find the sound, and we did that TV program, called Jozi Moving the City. Yes, in terms of turn it into a sort of slapstick thing of making David Kabuka the manager of Jozi, and them traveling around Africa trying to find the sound. But then members of Jozi actually lost the plot, while shooting it. And they couldn't see the vision in that, sadly.
Yeah. I'm curious, though. Like, I think not enough has been explored. I know you have a book, you're working on a book. But for you, like, the vision for that Like, where do you get the conviction to say that this is going? Because it worked. I remember it was on heavy rotation on Metro FM, and that was like, as a kid, that's the only place you get access to music unless you have $100 to buy a CD, and it was always there. Like, What's With the Attitude, all of the songs that were on that album, most of them, there were 3 major singles, that were all on heavy rotation. But like the conviction for you talk about POC, you talk about Jozi being somewhat of a version of that, but that's 20 years apart, over 20 years apart with those groups. So how do you still 20 years later be like, I'm convinced that, because that's a different sound from hip hop too. Like, for me, I'm still confused because Squatter Camp was big at the time. Pro Kid and Proverb were coming up, and I think Pro Kid was touching us with his lyricism at the time. Murafi, yes, that's one of my favorite groups as well. Cultr is one of my favorite rappers ever. And they were under you as well.
Murafi,
so for you, like, what convinces you at the time? Because that's not the sound of the time. What you did was just to shake it up and be like, here's something else that you can listen to.
I'll be very honest, we're working with music. We're working with things that are moving. There's things that you try. There's things that you're into. You will hear a sound. I'm hearing sounds all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. When I say all the time. And it's very sad for me. And I just wish that I just knew vernacular languages, because I'd be making so many songs. So I just go on sounds, and I go on melody lines, and I go on that, and that's what turns me on. So with the Jozi thing, the Jozi vibe was, it's always been there. I mean, when I left South Africa, when I was 17, 18, I went to London, and I always imagined and always wanted to sell South Africa to the world, okay, in terms of images and sounds and music. And I mean, that's why for me, when Ishmael came up with, because we struggled to find a name for the group, okay, and then Ishmael was like, phone, I think Jozi. It's like, yes, because I could just see like Jozi happening, Josi's playing in Tokyo, London, New York, and also selling the city. And it's because there's groups like Texas. I don't know if you heard of Texas.
Chicago.
Yeah, all of that stuff. Okay. Porter's Head. So for me, that was exciting. And you want to also, I don't know about selling the country now. It's just sad. But anyway, selling darkness. Yes.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. But it's... we're celebrating Sister Bettina this year.
Oh, yes.
18 years.
Damn, that song. Okay. Was that, so Mkharimba was under you? That was recorded under you?
Yes.
Damn, that's impressive. That's an impressive repertoire of hits in South Africa. Like, every generation has something from your staple, from your record label.
There's still more coming.
Damn.
I'm excited about
that's
the new
a national
releases.
anthem, like that. Sister Bettina at a stadium.
Oh, well, it's the unofficial national.
That's a national anthem.
It's not. Let's not like.
It's
an unofficial.
Is there any other song that you think can top that song at a stadium? Even because I'm a sports person.
Yes.
Even if you're watching rugby or cricket,
it's there. No,
football.
I agree with you. I'm not disputing it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's gonna be a lot, because for the song to maintain that spot for 18 years, I think that's like I don't want to mention any other songs because we could get into a debate about it.
Well, they also play Vulindlela. At rugby stadiums. They play Vulindlela and they play Sister Bettina.
But Sister Bettina, people lose their inhibitions with it. Especially all those sort of corporate, very straight-laced women. Right. Just jump on the table. What is going on?
Yeah. What was the reaction as you saw the disintegration of Jozi? You see that you are building up these kids. They became what they became. And then, of course, because from us, from a fan's perspective,
I was so pissed.
We would see Real Kopoza. There's now 2 of them, but there were 3 of them. And then when they're performing, you're expecting 4 of them. There's like 2 of them and all of that stuff.
it's very sad when you're building and you've got a vision and you don't complete that vision, right? In terms of where you wanted to take the group to. I mean, for me, Josie could have conquered the States quite easily. Okay? I mean, we did a dry run at spring break in Panama City, okay? And, I could see how receptive the spring breakers were, right? And you know what spring break is like. I mean, it's exactly like it is in the movies. But when you're there live, it's even crazier.
Yeah.
And, people were just getting down with the sun. And they wouldn't normally just get down. It's like, oh, wow, okay, they're receiving this. This is cool. But then there's a lot of things that just derail things like drugs and fame and women and more women. Yeah, distractions. And
at the time you're making phone calls, trying to counsel people, getting them into rooms and talking to them.
Of course you're trying to. You're not just, what do you think you're just doing? Is, okay, whatever. Okay. It's like, oh, and you're trying to. But the problem that you have is what you're fighting at that point. And this is what happens is there's a thing, once that property, and it happens with footballers as well, the same thing, okay? So you'll be nurturing and you nurture and you nurture and you nurture, and you get to a point now where the release happens. The release happens, the music's accepted, and now the machine is moving, and now you are trying to keep like 4 different egos intact, looking at the same place. Now, the guys are not together all the time. So obviously, there are other people that are hangers-on that have also got their own agenda. And everybody's got their own agenda. Everybody's got their... It's like, you might have your best friend, and your best friend sees them as managing the group. It's like, these people don't know what they're doing. If I was managing this group, I'd actually take it to the moon, right? And then sometimes the artist is left with another group of friends, and another group of friends start influencing them like, no, actually, you know what? This thing that is happening, you are the star in this group. You, Beyonce, you know that you Beyonce. And then slowly all of the shit happens, and then obviously the drugs are happening and the late nights, and then the gigs get missed. And then and then it just falls apart. And then maybe somebody else in the group feels, you know what, I can't do this by myself. And it's interesting because every time somebody left the group, I was shocked, because I would say to everybody else, so how are you feeling now? And they'd be, it's fine. Before we had to cut this pie in 4, now we cut it in 3. Now we can eventually cut it in 2. And then you're like, but you can't see the bigger picture.
That's not the product you sold to the audience.
Well,
that's just in response to what the artist is saying.
Yeah.
When there's 2 of you, we didn't fall in love with 2 of you.
Yeah.
We fell in love with 4 of you.
Because you wanted a threesome or foursome.
Yeah. We knew what each person was bringing to the table. We knew that, okay, we can rely on Bongs on production and whoever else is helping on production. Ishmael's vocals are unmistakable. They're so consistent.
But you know what? Even on production, when I listened to what Ishmael did, because then Ishmael took over, Ishmael did some amazing shit.
Yeah.
Ishmael, for me, hasn't hit his peak. And he will. Thank goodness he just released the hit now, right? Which is happening.
He's moving towards the piano direction now.
No, he's not moving towards any direction.
He's embracing the piano.
He's doing music. And when people say, oh, now what does he do? It's like, oh my God, just listen to the music. I think what I'm a Piano has done, I don't think that it's been kind to artists. Okay? And I'll say that because I think it's been good for DJs and it's been good for producers. but basically a lot of the artists are just basically another sound. If you understand what I say, another sound, like somebody's vocals could be just another instrument that has been used. So you don't really have the craft of building an artist, right? I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that with dance music. Preceding piano was. I've always just been averse to dance music, but I love music in general. You could see that you could always just replace the vocalist. You don't. In most instances, we even didn't know who was singing on the song.
Yes,
and that's like the aversion for me. I don't know the name of the song, which album it comes from, who are the musicians are. Like that's my angle from that. With jazz musicians, I love them. I know who they are. I can tell their sound. With hip hop, same thing. Even though that also became formulaic at some point. You know, but with certain musicians, are like, this is unmistakably Thande Somazwai. This is any artist like Zonke. You can, this is Zonke. But with piano, I don't know. I don't know how many piano musicians we have in this country since the last 3, 4, 5 years, and I'm not even criticizing it. I'm just saying that's like maybe one of the limitations of that genre is that you don't even know the musicians. I don't know if I've ever interviewed a Amapiano artist, and I don't know if they are actually Amapiano artists or they're doing the sound of that time. Like they're not. Are you passionate about this genre, or you're just doing the sound of that time? But then you can make that argument with Kwaito artists too. That were they really Kwaito artists, or that was the sound of that time? They were just jumping on that bandwagon because when they were young, that was what other people were doing. So, but the problem with piano is that the identification of the musicians, who's who, and stuff like that. So, well, I'm so sorry for doing this, but here we are.
What? It's fine. You don't know.
I mean, I know people can be finicky about their music. I love music a lot. A lot, but that's the one genre I can't get myself into. We're talking about Josie and the disintegration of Josie.
Yeah, I think that there is Josie there's a track that we're working on that's got a feature with Josie. That is hot. It's a new track that's going to be released probably in the next 2 months. It's okay.
Well, we can take it that Bongani Fassie will not be part of that, based on what we've been reading in the news, what is alleged to be happening between you and him. Now, what is factual is that you've sued him for 6.5 million rands. You may correct that. What is also factual is that, or what has also been written about, is that there was an attempt for some sort of mediation and reconciliation. What on that article Bong said, or is alleged to have said, is that at some point he says he's scared for his life. As someone was trying to meet him and you to mediate for that 6.5 million rands lawsuit, because you're suing him because he says that you introduced him to drugs. He says that on a show that's on Moja Love, there's an attempt to reconcile, but you never really meet. And then what's also factual is that in the last 2-3 weeks, he was attacked. There was a panga attack.
It had nothing to do with me.
Yeah, of course. People can put 2 and 2 together and say that there's something to do with you. Well, we got it on record that it had nothing to do with you. So what's the state of that situation now? Like in terms of conversation, can you confirm whether or not that's true that there was an attempt for reconciliation?
Okay. Basically what happened, the sheriff of the court has been looking for Bongani. Okay. They've been to various places and they need to deliver him the summons. Okay. The reason why, because, with social media at this point, and podcasts and TV, you can say anything about anybody and there's no accountability at all. You can say, somebody said Cleo slept with a dog. Okay, do you remember that story? That's
ridiculous.
Yeah, and this was like in a Sunday world paper. Okay, and when Bongani said that I introduced him to drugs, actually, I heard about it. I dismissed it. I was like, whatever. Okay, but my kids got really pissed off. Okay, because also he was living in our house with my youngest child. Okay, and she She actually watched all the episodes, wrote a whole case around it, okay, pointed out all the facts and all the lies and everything. And then they came to me and they said, if you're not going to do anything about this, right, because we're just tired of this, okay. And then when I read what had been written, I was like, whoa, okay, let me just take this further. And I went and I found a lawyer and started the whole process. Now, when there was a person that was mediating, that after they phoned, they said, no, Lance, I think you should meet Bongani, etc. So I said, okay, we can meet. And he's got to say certain stuff because this is not right. I stole 16 million rand from his mother. From the estate, okay, which I had no access to at all. And also, I introduced him to drugs, which I'm completely against. My whole life I've been against artists taking drugs. Okay, never mind the fact that Bongani has got a history of drugs in his family. Okay, so that is, as a parent who's got kids, no, that is just not on at all. So he said, okay, we'll meet. Oh, this mediator said, okay, fine, we're going to meet at some police station, Douglasdale police station. So I was like, okay, fine, we'll meet, and drove over there. And then I was waiting there with the mediator, and then the mediator said to me, no, he's phoned, he's scared for his life. Like, what? We're at a police station, okay? It's like, it's just drama, it's, so that's where we were sitting. I did hear that 2 weeks ago, Deleuze got together with him on a show on hip-hop, Love and Hip-Hop.
Oh, yes. There's this Love and Hip-Hop South Africa.
Yeah.
The South African version of it.
Yeah. Oh, there's an American version of it?
I think Love and Hip Hop is a franchise America. So it's like Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, Love and Hip Hop.
Okay.
So it's a franchise. I remember I was interviewing someone about it. I've never watched it.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so he made some overtures to Les, and Les said to him, dude, you've got to apologize or you've got to do something. So he's asked Les to be the mediator now.
Yeah.
And Les has asked me, and I said, he knows what he needs to do. Knows exactly what he needs to do.
And the Panga attack had nothing to do with you.
What did you say? Are you really saying that the Panga attack had nothing to do with you? Obviously, it had nothing to do with me. Can you imagine?
Well, he said if
just hold on a second.
He said if
just
for his life.
No. He was going to get assassinated by a Panga. I think if you're going to assassinate somebody, you're not going to use a Panga. You might use a ballpoint pen, okay, which would be easier, but not a Panga. Come on.
All right, that's confirmed then. Thank you for that. Shout out to Bongs. Lance is confirming that you know his number. So you can
No, not he knows. He knows that there are mediums that he can just say what he needs to say. He doesn't need to send smoke signals via a joint or whatever. Okay.
But you're saying that the sheriff is looking for him. That process is running.
That process is running.
There's no stopping that process.
No, we're not going to stop that process. Not at all. But you can't think that he can get away with slandering, because you can just slander anybody. I can say things about anybody and not be accountable. No, there's got to be some... and other people are also getting sued about things that they've been saying. Because I also think that I just left it too long. Right, I didn't do anything for a long time, from TS Records, from Mzege, from those days. I just kept quiet. And now I think that I just need to I need to say things.
Yeah. What did you make of the guys that were at some point under you, under your mentorship, who go on to do their own thing in terms of record label? I'm not sure.
DJ Cleo?
Yeah, there's Cleo. I don't know if, because I know that I was reading that Brown Dash was under you at some point. And I know that, of course, he goes on to the TS Galaxy. Sorry, not Galaxy. TS Records. I don't know if Swu was under you as Mzegazeg as well.
Yes, he was. Yeah. We set up TS Records.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
what do I?
Yeah, I just wanted to find out, like, for you, what did you make of what became of them, starting their own record labels and then becoming stars on their own?
I think that it's great. I think that it's productive. I think that people need to grow, and if that is your journey that you need to go on, you go on that journey. And if it succeeds, it succeeds. If it fails, it fails. I mean, it's like any business. Somebody working as a mechanic and then decides to set up his own mechanic shop. They can't, it's fine.
Yeah, there were no hard feelings for, like...
No. With TS, there was a problem.
What was the problem?
The problem was that the way it happened, and also the platforms that were used just in terms of trying to discredit me. Because at that time, DJ Sabu was a DJ on YFM. So there were constant sound bites just hammering me, right? I was pissed off then. But obviously we managed to get them taken down. And DJ Will of Steel, Clear was brilliant. Clear is, I think it's also in terms of the way it's done, and also because if there's integrity and honesty that happens at that point, okay, there's nothing wrong with growth at all. I mean, with Clear, we worked together for, I think we did in total about 10 albums. And then he wanted to go and do his thing, and he did his thing. And then he became a soccer player, and then he did that, and then he did this, and then he did that. And
he's carved out a very good career for himself.
Yes.
He's been very consistent as well.
Yes. And he's just finished his degree.
Yeah.
That
was in the news too recently.
Yeah, that's great. That is amazing. And that is, I think he values that more than any of his other accomplishments. And I also feel that he also hasn't really been celebrated. Clear, and for me, Ishmael. Those are two artists that I don't believe have reached their peak.
Do you think the TS1, is it because of the way that perhaps they would have left you, that there was some sort of animosity? Like, where do you think that would have stemmed from? If they're bashing you, is it because it was an unamicable parting of ways in the first place?
No, it wasn't amicable at all. There was a very, because they went to EMI, okay, and EMI were our distributors, okay. So, and there were a lot of artists that went to EMI from us, because obviously EMI was the big daddy. But obviously we left EMI and went to Sony, right? So, in terms of distribution at that point, and the music game was very different to what it is now. I think that I think it's also personalities, okay? And people change from when you meet them. And also, I mean, TS has also had their share of, what could you call it? Their share of controversies with artists.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think what you reap, you must be very careful about what happens in this world of payback times. And the universe has got a karma that happens.
Thank you. I'm curious about your relationship with television.
Okay.
Because whether it's production companies or the actual channels themselves, that's the one stream that you allowed a lot of your artists to prosper from. Whether it was your working relationship with Yizo or other shows like Zola 7.
Yeah.
where does that
Josie moving the city.
yeah. Where does that come from? Like, you've always been fully aware of where to place your artists, but how do you cultivate those relationships in the first place? Because Yizo was major. It was a cultural phenomenon when it happened. The actual show Yizo, because it was shocking. South Africa was more conservative, and it was for the first time that they were seeing some of those things displaying themselves in front of their TV screens at 8 p.m. midweek. And then it's a phenomenal move then to have the soundtrack be almost interlinked with your musicians. Get Us Scandalous was one of my favorite songs
Tracks.
ever.
Yeah,
ever as a kid. And Ghetto Fabulous, you
was the
cannot
shit.
separate it from Yizo. I don't know whether it was Yizo 2 or whatever, but you couldn't separate that. It's like, that's a Yizo song. You can't even make the connection that that's a separate song. It's a song by musicians, which just so happened some of them are on Yizo. How do you cultivate those relationships? And
Well, I think that we were really fortunate at the time for Yizo because Angus,
Gibson,
yes, Gibson and Desiree and Bomb, and the whole team over there had come. Because I was at that point, I was heading Polygram, the local division of Polygram. So I think it was very fortunate because I think if we were separate and we would just get her up by ourselves, I don't think we would have actually got that opportunity. Okay, they came and I had Get Her Rough, and I was also doing Polygram as well, heading Polygram, and they came and they said, okay, we got this Years thing. Can we get some artists together and watch a couple of programs? And we sat in the boardroom, and I remember we put the pneumatic tape in, and we watched programs, and the guys flipped. Ishmael was there, Amu was there. At that point, Zola wasn't there. Zola only came in Years 2, and KB was there.
KB was there, was part of it.
Was part of it. And everybody just was like, wow, this is going to be amazing. And we just got stuck into it, right? And it was very organic to a certain degree.
So you hadn't known those Bomb production guys prior?
Before, no.
Damn.
No, that's what I'm saying.
That's the luck that you were talking about.
Yeah, that was because they could have gone anywhere else.
Yeah, 999, I think at the time was in existence.
They could have gone to 999.
They could have gone anywhere.
What an amazing soundtrack that would have been if it was 999.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm being
very sarcastic.
I can't unhear the ones I like. I really love those soundtracks. It's a massive.
So, and then we went on with the Years 2, and that was also luck, right? In terms of course, there was that one track, the Ghetto Fabulous track, that myself and KB used to have huge arguments. It was the only thing we argued about. Okay.
So who produced that song?
So KB had it as an instrumental. Okay. Yeah. That he had that as an instrumental. Yeah.
And there were no vocals.
There were no vocals on it.
Oh my word!
And we sat with that instrument, and he was adamant that this was his instrumental, and
for him to record on.
No, just he didn't want any vocals on it. Okay, and I said, no, we need vocals on this. There's a vocalist that will come with this. And there was another Kwaito artist called Bumaratsi. And Bumaratsi had a very cool style, and I'd send Bumaratsi there and I'd say, and KB was stubborn, okay? And KB was, I think he put Bumaratsi through torture, and Bumaratsi would come back. I'd say, so did you win today? Okay, and no, doesn't like it. Go back, write some more. We've got to find the right vocals for this.
So
track.
you knew that something must be laced on this track. Whatever it is, there must be something on this track because there's something there. There's magic there.
Yes, and then when we were doing when User 2 came up, I then asked Desiree Marcroft, right, to please send through all the actors that are on User 2 to the studio. And then and she sent through, and Zola was one of them.
Yeah, and I know Tembi was part of that show.
Yeah,
as well.
Tembi was there in Gunman.
So
and
how do you come up with that idea? Like, why would you do that? Take the actors to record?
Because the show.
Oh, that was the concept that.
No, there was no concept. Okay, the show was so big that for me, I felt that there was going to be somebody in Yuzu 2 that could rap, that could actually deliver something that, and if they could do that, that would be a huge break.
So that's a coincidence. Like I see the angle from it's like the show is so big that we could get a star musician, but it's something that you coincidentally thought of. Like there was no plan ahead, so that the actors become like people from generations recording songs, and one of them becoming a star.
Okay. Let's not push it here. Okay, I mean we're not going to do that for generations. Yeah. Okay,
but I'm making that's a popular show, like the people watch.
Yeah, but no, you can't do it from generations. I mean, generations is cheese. Okay, like, it's like you can't. That is, can you imagine? No, I think that, and those are sometimes just absurd ideas. Okay, and that was luck. That we were very lucky that
it just so happens that
Zola went down, and I said to KB, the vocalist coming in. Okay. And then I didn't know that KB was going to play that instrumental.
Yeah.
Okay. KB played the instrumental and Zola, and he phoned me, said, you got to hear this.
Yeah.
You were right. This was, okay, I've never been wrong in my life. But anyway, no, I'm joking. You can speak to my kids every day. They say, because children, your own kids will always be your biggest, they're not your biggest fans.
Yeah, no, they don't see the star that you are from out there.
No, I don't think it's about the star. But anyway, KB was amazing. That I just thank the universe that KB played the track, because he could have played other tracks. Okay,
but there's a build up to it. I mean, you were pestering him, and he would have felt the pressure that eventually I'm gonna have to lace a lyric or a verse on top of the song. Without the build up of you pestering him, he's not going to feel under pressure to play it for anyone. He can clearly see that you want this to be recorded.
Yeah, we fought that. I think that was the biggest fight we've ever had in terms of musically.
And that's one of the most iconic songs. Like you can't separate that song with the show.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah. No, very true. Yeah. So then the rest was just another story in terms of the way KB and Zola carved that album. Okay, that is most.
So
I think
that's the lead up to the Umdlwembe album.
Yes. Yeah.
Like literally from that.
Yes.
Damn. And Zola comes out swinging on Umdlwembe, like the actual song. Like he just comes out swinging. It's like, yo, I'm a star. Look at me. Pay attention to me. He spits onto the camera. People are chasing him. It's like, yeah, you believe it. Like, yeah, you are the star. And it's like, you believe it. Like he's spitting. And I'm like 11. I'm like, yeah. Like you're convinced that this is a star. And it's almost coincidental the way that it happens. And he becomes a mega star.
But for me, what triggered the mega star was what SABC News did for him. Okay, because and SABC News didn't even know they were doing this. Where there was an announcement on Monday morning, 6:00 in the morning. There was an arrest. There was a warrant of arrest for Zola for Papa Action. That was the front of the news.
Oh,
right, because we did a show in Durban. I didn't even know about this something that happened, and somebody right in front of the stage was trying to grab Zola's dick. Okay, and what Zola did was he took a bottle of beer, and poured it over the person.
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't a big thing. It was
innocuous. That's nothing.
Yeah, and that person went to the police station and opened up a case against him of assault. Okay. So we don't even know about this. We hear this on the news. Okay. And it was his birthday as well. And I was like, fuck, that is it. I just like, wow, well done, SABC. You've just made this guy into the star.
Yeah.
Because obviously what people are looking at, this guy's really a gangster. Look at this, there's a warrant of arrest out for him.
Yeah.
You don't with him.
Yeah. There's a believability of the character that is playing on screen.
Yes.
And what's happening in his real life.
Which is so far from it.
Yeah. And also, like, I mean, there's other things too. What you guys did on Zola 7. Making us see him every single Thursday or Wednesday, I can't remember.
Yes,
and
Thursday,
doing heroic shit. Like achieving people's dreams in 3 days. That was the concept of the shirt. Every single, and I remember on You magazine, it was always like South African of the Year, like every single year.
Yeah,
and he would beat Mandela and Oprah to be voted South African of the Year as well. That I think, Lance, like, if you do, I am mildly ambitious. If you ever do shit like that, I think that's curtains. Of course, when you get there, you realize it's not curtains. You want to achieve more. But on the scope of that alone, to be able to propel an artist, I know other shit happens that dampens the whole thing, but to be able to propel an artist from who they were to who they eventually become, which is legitimately, you've shown this person to 20 million human beings, and legitimately 20 million beings know him. They mention his name in their lifetimes. That's not something you can be able to achieve. That's not something that even a percentage of the global population can achieve. To be able to achieve that, I think, is ridiculous. Like, I would be like, if I could die tomorrow, I'm like, I did that. That's ridiculous.
I don't know.
That's ridiculous. I mean, you're gonna want to do more because you're an ambitious person.
No,
to do that thing.
No. That is really not. I don't. That is part of my journey. I think there are other things. I've got kids.
Yeah.
Who I'm enjoying being with them. I'm enjoying seeing what they're doing and how amazing they are. You see, also, it's only later on, like when you'd say, oh, for me, like, oh yeah, that did happen at some points. Okay, like I'd always hear from people, wow, do you know when you were doing, when Get a Rough was doing, like, you had Zola, you had Amo, you had Pitch Black Afro, Bricks, Tux, Morafe, DJ Cleo, da-da-da. And I'd look back at the period and I'm going, fuck, how the fuck did we do that? Okay. And because there was never a set plan. Okay. What you did was you were just doing things. You were doing things every day. You would, like, okay, in studio, okay, we're doing this, we're doing that. And you'd never look at what other people were doing. And then later on, you find out that, no, all these other motherfuckers were actually looking at what you were doing, and they were all trying to cock block you in terms of, because then you'd find out later on and somebody would say, we'd have meetings and we'd actually want to know who you're working with so that we could sign the publishing behind your back, right? Because you always knew that if you were busy on something, that person would. And these publishing companies were doing that. They were actually having meetings about making sure that, because also, to be also very honest, we didn't have a very strong admin. So, I'd work with somebody for a year before we signed a contract. Because also you want to first get to know the person, before otherwise you sign a contract and you don't even know the person. And then in the end, the person turns out to be a f***ing ass. And then there are certain people that, even now to a certain extent, I operate on that basis.
Yeah.
Okay, which a lot of people who I work with, our team hates that. Okay, it's like, no, we've got to get the contracts done first. And for me, it's not always about contracts. It's like when you go into a marriage. I mean, you meet a girl on the first date. What, you can get married to them? It's like, no, you want to know whether all those positions are real. That cook, etc. Like all those.
We get you. But I think at a level of career, I understand. Like life is there are more important things in life than a career. But at a level of a country is a country. A country, people underrate this. Like, what if you can be able to influence half of a country? You almost as good as a president. If you can have a machinery, that allows you to propel an artist like that. Like, I look at countries and I break them down. I'm like, Nigeria has around 300 million people. If you could be a musician who 100 million people from that country listens to, that's influence.
That's serious. No, I agree.
That's influence. So it's I would never downplay what you. I mean, you've just spoken about the musicians that we've had on your catalog and your repertoire, and it's like, bro, if you can ever create something like that, it's like, okay, there's family and all of that. There's contentment and happiness and health, but that one thing at a level of no one achieves that in their career. No one achieves that in their career. Not even 1% of the population globally is a stretch.
I mean, a lot of people say to us, if you people were operating in the States, right, in terms of just what we've done, we'd most probably make a lot more money and we'd have a lot more opportunities. And also, people are very slow. I mean, I battle even with what I've done and achieved, okay? I battle to convince people out there to, okay, this is what can happen. We're celebrating 18 years of Sister Bettina. If I show you what we've got planned for 18 years of Sister Bettina, how we're going to catapult South Africa globally in terms of making people around the world celebrate Sister Bettina, and you present to people and people are, oh really? Okay. And you're like, you idiot, right? Because there are a lot of gatekeepers, right? And these gatekeepers, and if you don't get the buy-in from these fucking people, it doesn't happen. So a brilliant idea just goes down. Then you see a very stupid idea get put millions into and nothing happens.
Yeah, I get that. Like, but you can't live, so what we did with my friend and I started something in football. We were working for a newspaper called Sokola Duma. It's the biggest football newspaper in the country. Yeah. And then he's a white guy. So the two of us decided that we going to leave Cape Town to come to Joburg 4 years back. And then we came here and then we started something called Itiski Media, which had a YouTube channel and a newspaper. And we developed that and we grew it to a point where it's worth a couple of tens of millions now. Because your fan base grows, 500,000 people follow it, millions of people consume it on YouTube every weekend whenever a match is playing. So I relate to what you're saying in that we've had conversations with your SABCs, your Super Sports, and sometimes I'm in this meeting and I'm thinking to myself, we've built this. You see it every weekend because you guys are in the sporting industry. You know how big this is. I don't want to convince you about this shit if you don't want it. But there's still people who you still have to convince, in spite of the fact that you've developed so many artists and you've won so many awards, you've made so much money in the industry. So I get it. Like, there's still a lot of assholes in offices where I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. I can show you where to find the links.
But do you know why? And this is where the big problem lies. It's the big C word. I know there's a lot of C's going through your head. Okay. Corruption.
Okay.
Because everybody wants to eat.
Yeah.
They want to eat. So it's like, I've got a friend that can do this. Okay. Oh, wow, you got that idea. Phone my friend. Yeah, listen, just like shift a bit on the side over there. And that's the society that we're living in at the moment.
Yeah. As someone who's worked in TV, I've asked you about TV and your relationship with TV and
I saw it in.
You serious? You're serious?
Yes.
Okay. Were you part of it or?
No. Do I look like the kind of guy in front of the camera? No. I'm behind the mic, right behind. No, I was very fortunate when I was 18 years old that I got a job in London, and the first job was shooting porn with a production company.
Yeah.
I thought it was normal. I thought like everybody in the world was doing it except for some people in South Africa.
That was the 70s.
No, that was when I was 18 years old.
So
18,
that's
19.
Which decade is this? 70s or 80s?
1920. No, that was around 79, 80.
Yeah, and that's even when we got to 2000, South Africa is not a that was not a popular thing to do until the internet. Until the internet.
Until Piano Hub.
Yeah. What would you do? As I'm about to let you go, I have a few other things that I want to ask you, but there's no time. What would you do if you were? So I've been discussing this with a lot of people who were on the Idols, the show The Idols, and they have a very poor hit rate. The rate at which they produce winners and runners up versus the rate at which those winners and runners up become successful musicians is very poor. For some reason, that show is not producing successful musicians who have like prolonged careers when they win the Idols, or even people who are runners up, because I mean you're there until the last day and the last minute, but they never really become successful musicians. And I think the show has closed now. The South African version of the franchise is closed as well. You told me that you don't watch. I hope you would have seen it at some point.
No, of course. Vusi's been on Idols. Aspelelanga, that would just shot his ratings up big time.
Yeah. So
I've never been a judge on Idols.
Yeah, but as someone who, if you were given in charge of that, like what would you do to get better musicians, to even create a better show?
I think that somebody's been robbed in the neighborhood. Right. Of course, there's an alarm going off. All right.
Now we have very good alarm systems.
Okay.
They'll be in 2 minutes or 3 minutes.
So I think that it has to go digital. Number one. Okay. I think that we've actually come up with a solution. Right. We've produced an app. Okay, that will be open to everybody very soon. We will be releasing it. Let me tell you what the problem is with Idols. Okay, so because it's a very difficult format. Before it was fine because there weren't a lot of other distractions in people's lives, so they could focus on Idols and guests. But over the last couple of years, there's a fight for attention.
There's competition for attention of the audience, unfortunately.
Yeah. So also what happens is the build-up, you find a winner, that by the time that winner releases a song to make them commercial, they're already looking for the next winner.
Yeah, the cycle is very quick.
So that cycle, that person hasn't even got time, because that whole team now is looking at the next person, okay? And you've actually got 10 finalists, and maybe it's 5 or whatever it is. So the people that are also dealing and handling Idols, right, they've also got other artists' careers to look after. So that doesn't become the priority for them, okay? They're running another label, okay? I mean, given that format to any record company, okay, it's a problem, okay? And also, you also need to find songwriters and hit makers. So, it's very easy for somebody to say, because obviously there's a thing with artists as well. I've just won Idols. Obviously, what I'm doing is right. Okay, so
you were singing other people's songs. I mean,
yes.
It's not like you were writing music. It's not like you're a musician.
Oh, don't they? They don't write their own stuff.
I think that those people just sing. I don't like TV, but I've seen it enough.
They sing other.
They just sing other people's songs, and until they don't get graded on the scope of their talent, their penmanship, and their beat selection.
All right,
they are given songs that are strenuous to your vocal cords.
Sure, okay.
And if you can reach those notes as high as they
Fine.
are or as low as they get, then you become a winner. But I think the other thing is that, Lance, is if I may, is that the format, because it's a TV show, limits itself to the idea of telling people stories, and then the people that win are the people with the most compelling stories. The in thing now is to be gay. The in thing now is to be transgender. We will propel you to the top 10 for as long as you have a compelling enough story, so that the LGBTQI community, I'm not criticizing them, I'm just making an example. So for example, one of the winners, I'm not saying is not good enough or bad, was a homeless person. Now that's a story. Like, they're selling you a narrative. You know,
wasn't there somebody a policeman?
the one that won now was a policeman. You know, the one that won recently.
That's why the crime rate is like everybody's singing.
You see, so we are selling a narrative as opposed to selecting the best musicians with dope musicianship. I think actually, as you suspected, that you thought that they wrote their own music. If they were looking for musicians, maybe they would have better artists. If they were saying to them, okay, you're gonna sing a rendition of Whitney Houston's song, I will always love you, but then also write your own
You
music.
have to write your own music. And I'm very excited about this new app, right? There's a new app that's coming out that is going to give everybody a chance.
So in that you're looking for talent? Like, someone is uploading their music and then you can contact them?
There's a whole structure that happens. There's like 15,000 beats you can pick from, you can choose from. You can then, your phone becomes your recording studio. There's 15,000 beats. You're listening. Oh, I like that beat. Okay, great. Gada 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 da da da. Tuk 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 tuk.
And then upload.
Junk junk junk. All these different things happen very quickly, and you then become an Insta star, which is very sad. I mean, it doesn't help us at all. But we are living in an age of helplessness at the moment, where we are with social media. So, but it's a solution for people who can't get into a studio, right? And who think they have talent. I try and tell people not to get into this industry. I try and navigate them to at least have 3 skills, right? Whether it be graphic artist, cameraman, even a teller. I'm working on such an exciting artist at the moment. I've got 21 artists, but anyway, this one particular artist, for me, I admire her so much because she's been singing since she's been 18, okay? And she decided that she was first, and they were living in the shack. And she decided that she was first going to get a job, and she became a teller, right? And she earned money, and she earned more money, and then after 4 or 5 years, she saved enough money to move their family into a house, and she built a house for her family, and she did all the things that you would normally do, right? But not, because what do 90% know? What do all artists? Oh my God, when I become famous and I become rich and I'm going to buy my mother a house and I'm doing, so the goal is always like when I become, when I do this and when I become, and 99.99% of those people will never, ever make it at all. And they forget about the actual living and doing what you're supposed to do in life. And that is actually working instead of sitting on your ass, singing and running around and thinking that you're going to be the next superstar. Okay? And what I admire about this particular person is that her journey was exactly that. She went, did everything for her family, and then once she got everything for her family, she then decided, now, in the last year, I'm now going to sing. That's what I want to do for myself. And can she sing?
Yeah.
You're going to hear her.
That's a dope story. It's 3 minutes to load shedding, so we might as well close off. Maybe one more thing. I'm sure
3 minutes. When it goes off,
yeah,
you'll know.
and that will be it.
We'll just say
That's
goodbye.
the beauty of creating content online. What do you say when Zola is calling you?
If Zola, what do I say?
You said you spoke to him on the phone recently.
Calling me now. No, what do I say?
So is that a comfortable phone call? Like you are in cordial terms, like you're talking.
I wouldn't say that it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But in very recent times, in the last 72 hours, I think people reach a point in their lives where you can reflect and you can actually analyze and look at okay, these different behavior patterns, what was the cause of it? Why did I get into this position? Why? In the end, you have to take accountability for your own actions, right? You can't be pointing fingers at other people when you made certain decisions and you did certain things. So how do I feel? There's certain things that he has to do, and he knows what he has to do. Well, he's going to be told what he has to do. Okay? And it's very hard. Excuse me. I've made mistakes. I've made mistakes with my kids. Okay, I didn't give them enough attention at a particular time, and that attention, you only find out much later on how it affected them, right? When you were running around helping other people with their careers, but meanwhile not giving your own kids the attention that they actually needed. And you've got to take accountability for that. I'm talking about myself. I'm not talking about anybody else. So, and also in relationships that I've had, you become sometimes really obsessed with, and I suffer from that. From like, if I'm into something, I can sit 5 days in the studio, okay, not worry about anything. But meanwhile, there's a whole world happening out there. But that's what you need to do to actually get a final product out or whatever you're working on. So, accountability in all our lives is really important.
And that's the message to Zola.
No, it's a message to all of us.
So there's somewhat cordiality. I'm sure time will tell whether or not there can be a cordial relationship and whether there's one more album still there. Because people were talking about his Skinny Jeans song. I don't know.
I said to him,
it's dance music.
What the hell were you thinking about Skinny Jeans? It was a challenge. No, it wasn't a challenge. It was a challenge to our sanity, right? Whether we're going to see you doing skinny jeans. No, that isn't what you grew up with.
Yeah. We want him to say, I'm going to shine in the dark. I think the stars of soul. That motherfucker used to lift us up. Yeah. Shout out to Zola. He used to lift us up. Like when you go up in the township in extreme poverty and you listen to a musician talking to you in shacks and you're like, oh, you talking to me? Like the way that his music was so uplifting was like that. Even when he delved into gospel within these albums.
Yeah, Woof Woof.
Yes. Woof Woof was a phenomenal song. But he also used to do Zion music as well. And you're like, oh, cool. He was a megastar to us. So one more album, Lance, with Zola, eventually, when all dust settles.
No, it's not even dust. It's so simple.
Yeah.
It's so simple. Just so people know, we are waiting for the lights to go off.
Yeah.
Right?
We're literally done.
And we're really bored at this point.
Yeah.
We don't know what to talk about. I heard that, soccer, you do that every week?
Yes.
Right.
It is TV. This is
so who's going to, yeah?
So we got the plague from doing this.
Nice one.
It is TV. So basically we just watch football matches and then it's such a simple format, just one camera, 2 microphones, with like maybe 3 different former soccer players.
Okay.
And then we talk about what we just saw and then it has a huge fan base. Like
nice.
A lot of people hate us and then a lot of them love us as well. Because it's different, so it's a departure from what they usually see on TV. people analyzing a game because, of course, you have to keep your job and you speak nice about the people that if we saw a game, it was a game. And we do it for 10 minutes. Another analyst comes in 10 minutes. So, yeah, that's what we built and became like a cultural phenomenon. Like people just want to share the videos and all of that. So it's beautiful. It's a different product from what people see in football. And like we've been negotiating to take it on TV. Just a matter of the finances and the time slot. But I don't know how it's going to do on TV. It's going to do well. Like our fans online will watch us on TV too. But I don't know whether or not there will be like an executive always trying to nudge us in a certain direction. Don't talk bad about this team. It's not even about talking bad. If it was a shit game, it was a shit game. But they are in the business of selling these matches to the audience. So they don't want you to tell the audience it's a shit game so that the audience doesn't watch tomorrow. See, this is where the dilemma is. Like our style of delivering information about
but people want that. That is ratings.
Well,
if you're dissing people and you're going and you've got constructive disses, okay, that is brilliant.
But me and you, we are connected in seeing it that way. But the executives, they'll be like, "This is our product. We pay $1 billion over 5 years to have this, the rise to this. We don't want anyone to tell people that." Because when it's a brilliant game, we'll say, so it was a brilliant game and break it down at a coaching level. Like this was a brilliant football match and all of that stuff. So, yeah. But anyways, thank you to everyone. Thank you, Lance, for coming through.
It's great.
I hope that Josie reunion works out with Bongani Fassie.
Bongani who?